Are you terrified of speaking in public? It's very rare for someone to not have any anxiety, to not have any stress, to not have any sort of feelings about it. Because if you are human, you care about how you show up in front of other people. You care about how you're going to be received, and you care about doing a good job. For some reason, it's an activity that a lot of people haven't cracked the code on. And the people that seek my help when it comes to getting more confident and more comfortable speaking in public tend to struggle with the same set of worries. The first one being that they're going to forget what they're going to say, that they blank when it's time to go, and they can't remember everything that they had rehearsed or scripted beforehand. The other one is that they're going to make a fool of themselves, or they're not going to say things properly or correctly or well enough. And because of that, people are going to make fun of them. They're not going to be taken seriously. They're not going to be seen as an expert or somebody who knows what they're talking about, especially if English is not their first language. There's a big chip on your shoulder if you feel like you're walking into a room of native speakers from that country, that culture, that language, and you are walking in as the non-native speaker. There is so much more of a wall put up because you feel like you have that extra layer to prove. And whether it's true or not, whether the people in the room are making you feel a certain way about it or not, that's just the reality of the situation. The other worry is that you're going to look silly, that you're going to be awkward, that you're not going to know what to do with your hands, with your body, with your hair, with your face, that all eyes are going to be on you, or that maybe your slide deck or whatever you're presenting the product is not going to be top notch. It's not going to be as impressive, or that maybe your storytelling style is boring. You're going to put everyone to sleep. I mean, the list goes on and on and on about the things that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves about all the reasons we're going to go do horribly, about all the reasons that we're going to fail, because that is essentially our brain trying to protect us from harm. It is a defense mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. It's your brain trying to shut down and say, don't do it. It's too scary. It's the fear of the unknown. We're not sure if you're going to do well, and you might die if all fails. And that is not the reality. In all seriousness, the worst thing that could ever happen by you not doing well in front of your peers or an audience is that people just won't care. They won't remember. They might get bored. I mean, most people are looking at their phones, taking notes, scrolling on their computer while they're listening to you talk anyways. Like, it's not personal. It's usually not you. It's just like the nature of the context of the environment and the situation that they're in. Maybe it's been a long day. Maybe you're like the 10th person to speak. Maybe this is not the most thrilling and exciting topic to discuss. There are certainly things you can do to have a more memorable presentation, and we can cover that in another video. But today we are going to go over some of these common fears and worries specifically shared by a Reddit user, and we're going to go over and dissect some of the pieces of advice that people have given, and I will include strategies and tips and insights that I share with my own clients. So let's get started. This person says that they flubbed a presentation. Well, I had 2 slides today in a presentation and I flubbed it up. I don't know why it is. If you ask me to write what I'm going to say, I write it eloquently. But then when I go to say it, I lose my words and totally F it up. I just don't get it. I had sweaty palms, butterflies, and to top it all off, it was on a Zoom call. Okay, gives us some context there. It was virtual. I think for me, it's being put on the spot. If you just ask me to have a discussion and ask my opinion on the same topics, I'm fine, even in a large group of people. I hear this all the time. It's the minute I'm expected to talk on a topic that's planned that I freak out. I just don't get it. All right. Well, we don't know how old they are. We don't know what they were presenting on. We don't know the nature of the details. But what we do know is that they had prepared it in advance. They had 2 slides to present over Zoom. So it was a virtual presentation with a slide deck, maybe with a group, since they say they were only responsible for 2 slides. And they think it's not so much about the size of the group of the people tuning in. It's just the idea that it is a planned event that they are being expected to speak in. Okay, that's what we're gathering. The first person who left a comment mentions it might be because of something called anticipatory anxiety, which is thinking beforehand about all of the what if scenarios, and that is what gets you wound up. Some call it the amygdala hijack. Your brain is all amped up to go into battle, and then when you start to speak, the imaginary battle is on. And because of that response, your brain is not interested in you being an eloquent speaker, right? And that goes back to what I mentioned before, like this fear response and reaction. Your brain is trying to get you to stop going into this scenario because it worries that it won't go well. And instead of experiencing that pain and humiliation and failure, it would rather just shut off and not do it. So the original hoster said this made me laugh. They're asking, is the solution then to do more of these types of talks, or should I just seek out medication? Let's take a step back here. A lot of the fear around speaking in public is rooted in anxiety, is rooted in that anticipatory response of panic, of fear, of failure, of embarrassment, shame, whatever it may be. There are a lot of feelings associated with failing at public speaking. And in order to address these issues, sometimes doing more of this activity can make you feel worse. It doesn't always feel better because you continue to put yourself out there. Exposure to the thing that scares you can help for some people, but in other people, it may make it worse. And if you fall into the category of people who has crippling fear, crippling anxiety, where you cannot participate in these things, where you are physically feeling like your body is shutting down, you're having trouble breathing, your heart feels like it's twisted inside of your chest, that you are getting nauseous and vomiting. I mean, if it's getting to that level, then you definitely need to seek out professional help and support and guidance. And when I say professional help, support, and guidance, I mean clinical level support from a psychologist, from a therapist, from somebody who is trained to help you process and understand what is going on with your brain, with its response, with your coping mechanisms, and to essentially explore different strategies to help you work through it. You can certainly research things to do, like being more in touch with your body, breathing exercises, and meditation, yoga, like things that are very calming and whatnot. You can work on journaling. You can talk with friends and family. You can spend more time in nature. Like there are a lot of things that we can do for proper self-care, but to address the trigger, the root of the issue that's causing this type of physical crippling response where your brain and your body are just shutting down, that might need more psychological intervention. And it may even require medical intervention, like pharmaceutical intervention. And there is nothing wrong with that. It will work for some people. It may not work for some people. That may be what you need. It may not be what you need. And this person is just saying, hey, I might be at the point where I need some medication to help me get through these situations. And that is okay. It's that level of self-awareness and also that level of openness and curiosity to exploring their options. This person says they were in Toastmasters for 24 years at the highest level, that they were really accomplished, they were great at public speaking, and they were doing all these different gigs and jobs. But for some reason, they still had panic attacks when it came to presenting at work. And even though it got better at Toastmasters was not work. So what they're saying is, like, even though these different outlets improved their speaking skills, their public speaking skills, it didn't directly address the triggers they were experiencing at work. And something that I often tell my clients is, in order to work through the issues that you're having, you need to recreate and simulate the experience that you'll be in when it is time to present. Explore, like, is it that? Is it the people in the room? Is it the environment that I'm in? Is it the room that I'm in itself? Is it the tech that's stressing me out? Is it my home and my space? Is it the way I look? Is it the way I feel? Like, you have to figure out what your triggers are and what is the thing that's causing you the most stress. But for this person in particular, it was something at work that was triggering them, and they weren't able to recreate that when they were practicing in Toastmasters. They said, this fear of public speaking is such a tough nut to crack because it has many dimensions. Yep. So keep looking for solutions. It does get better, but does it completely go away? Apparently not. But I did find ways to manage it. That is really important. And I'm glad that they pointed that out. Another person said, I can relate, especially about the part where fear never truly goes away. It's wired in the personality. Some people like us focus on the worst case scenarios. That said, I don't ever think, since my Toastmasters experience, I feel that I may have missed out on any big opportunity. Okay, so that's great. Whenever I messed it up, it was usually because I half-assed the content preparation or the vibe with the audience wasn't right. Okay, so they were able to identify why they weren't doing well was because they weren't fully prepared with what they had to present on. So that person has that level of awareness, and that is the kind of detective work that you are going to need to do if you have been struggling with the fear of speaking in public. Someone else wants to add their 2 cents, and some of the tips that they gave to battle public speaking anxiety is to break down any prepared presentation into smaller chunks and practice with a select group of your personal hype crowd. Love that. So starting with people who are going to encourage you, inspire you, motivate you, lift you up, cheer you on, so that you can start from a place of confidence. The second piece of advice they give is to just take more and more opportunities to do planned and prepared presentations. Yeah, so exposing yourself more to those scenarios, the situations, really breaking the ice for yourself, ripping the Band-Aid off, and just building up, flexing that muscle, because nothing can really simulate the experience of like having to think on your feet, being put on the spot, with having those eyes on you, with having people interact with you in the moment, being thrown questions left and right, being interrupted, having glitches with the tech. Nothing can replace that until you go through it and experience it firsthand. And until you do it multiple times, over and over and over again, in different rooms, in different settings, with different people, different topics. For the third piece of advice, they say for the prepared speeches, maybe you can develop a fixed pattern of an intro and overall structure. Yes, so having some sort of guide, some outline to follow, like a intro, main points, and a conclusion. I mean, those are the basics. And a lot of people overlook that because they tend to overcomplicate their presentations. They want it to be this like super stellar body of work. They want it to be flashy and showy and filled with content. And we can lose our way. Sometimes we can lose the plot a little bit. Sometimes simplifying, editing down, sticking to a basic outline of like just telling people what is it that you're going to be presenting about. What should they expect? What are they going to get out of this presentation? Hitting those main points, 1, 2, 3, providing evidence, providing examples, and then wrapping it up at the end and reminding everyone of why they should care, why this is important, what their next step should be. That is a basic outline that you can follow. Do not overcomplicate it. The moment you start overcomplicating things, this is the moment that things start to spiral, things get out of hand, and it becomes bigger than you wanted it to be. Another person responded and said, this is all good advice. Something that really helped me is to start realizing that the audience is not there to see me. They are there to get the information. Yes, exactly. Back to what I said at the beginning, like you are making it about yourself. You are getting caught up in your head. You are taking it too personally when people are not invested in everything that you're saying and doing because they have other things to worry about. They are human too. And even though you are the star of the show at that very moment, doesn't mean that they are fully paying attention to every single thing you're doing. And they're not going to notice everything or hyper analyze everything you're saying and the way you're saying it, the way that you are. Like you are going to be your biggest critic. And while it is important to do well, it's more important to remember the point of why you're even doing the presentation in the first place, which is to have impact, which is to sell, which is to persuade, which is to inform, like whatever the reason is, whatever your why is, that's what you need to keep in mind. Keep that at the forefront. Like, it's not about you. Take the pressure off of you and put it back onto the content. Make that shine. And as long as you feel like you did your due diligence, that you did justice to the content and the information and the purpose, then hey, whatever happens, happens. If you make a mistake, no problem. Like, you're human. If you forgot a word, if you lose your place, if you fumble a little bit with the tech, it's okay. You're human. It's not the end of the world. And that's so much easier said than done. I know that it is. I struggle with this myself. We all need to take a step back and remember we are human. We are not machines. We are not robots. We are going to make mistakes. Things are not going to be perfect. And it is about getting the information out there and it having impact, landing with your audience for it to make sense to them. Is the information accessible to your audience? Does it make sense? Is it easy for them to follow, to understand? Is it engaging? Is it exciting? Is it interesting enough? Did you accomplish your goal? Did you accomplish the assignment, the task at hand? What was being asked of you? Why did you do this in the first place? Who made you do this, right? Go back and start at the beginning of the reason why you are even up there, putting yourself out there. And if you keep that in mind, it should hopefully help to guide you and push you through to the end. Well, that pretty much sums it up. We have covered quite a lot. And at the end of it all, what we have learned, hopefully, is that fear, insecurity, and anxiety, doubts, these are all very natural feelings, reactions, and responses to have when it comes to speaking in public. You are not alone in having these feelings. You are definitely not the only person, and you are allowed to explore the different sides of yourself. You do not need to love speaking in public. You do not need to want to be a TED talker. You don't have to want to be extroverted and talkative and a superstar in the spotlight. You don't have to want those things. But if presenting and speaking in front of an audience is a required part of your life, of your job, of your business, then it's something worth investing time into. It's worth taking the time to explore why you might be struggling with it and what are the things that you can do to help yourself feel better, to feel more comfortable, to feel more confident when it is time for you to show up. So I hope that you got something out of this video. And if you have any of your own insights, tips, or strategies to share, please leave them down in the comments so that others can see it and know that they too are not alone. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.